points, like I said, 58 points ahead of Williams. And you might be thinking, where's the problem? They've had a great start to the season. Surely they're going to finish off in 6th. It was a shame they lost out to McLaren, but McLaren just bought upgrades that worked. But actually, it is looking terrible for Alpine. And these results you really have to take with a pinch of salt, considering if you look closer into these results, you'll actually find that Alpine have actually lost pace to the rest of the field. So, it has been 6 months since my last video that I talked about Alpine, and as you can tell, I am not surprised with how bad they are. I didn't expect them to be this bad. However, I knew things were only getting worse from 2023 and onwards. So let's talk about what is going on. First off, let's start by talking about their 2024 performances. And of course, we have to start with the Bahrain testing in 2024, where Alpine didn't look good. However, they didn't look like the worst team. I'll show you the stats right now. They looked like they were jostling for position between Sauber for 7th and 8th in the constructors. So a drop from their 6th position in 2023 and obviously their 4th in 2022. However, there's room to get worse. And my God, did they get worse going into Bahrain. So in Bahrain, they qualified 19th for Ocon and 20th for Gasly. And not only this, but they were so far off the pace. Gasly was almost 2/10 off Sargent, who was in 18th. And I really have to reiterate this about how much I respect Ocon and Gasly as drivers. I think they are pretty decent drivers overall. In my video rating the duos, I'm pretty sure I put them around 5th. I highly respect Gasly and Ocon. And if they're only putting the Alpine there, my God, I wonder where it'd be with like a worse driver. And it pretty much ended just as badly as you think. Luckily, they didn't get any DNFs in Bahrain. However, they only beat Bottas and Sargent. And that's only because they both had issues. But they still lost out to Hulkenberg, who had a first lap incident. So if you're getting beaten by a Haas when they've got difficulties of their own, it is just not good enough. And my God, has it set the tone for the season up ahead. So then we moved on to Saudi Arabia, and they didn't look any better. Now, I wasn't expecting any changes from Bahrain. However, different track layouts, they could have been better in high-speed corners. However, no. They still qualified 19th and 20th, and again, they were miles off Q2. Albon was a driver who came 15th, and this time Ocon was 4/10 off this pace with a 1 minute 29.475. That is just not good enough considering the capability of these drivers. That Alpine is dreadful. I mean, at this point, I don't even know why they're trying to save some weight from not having any paint on the car. Because the car's not fast anyway, so they should probably just have fun with the colour these days. Jesus, they're so far at the back of the grid. And then again for the race, Gasly had a gearbox issue, which meant by lap 3 he was 10 seconds behind the rest of the field. And in the second race to have a technical issue, disastrous. Again, Ocon 13th, a little bit better and sounds good on paper. However, again, it was basically because Albon had a bit of damage. He got kind of screwed over, and everyone else got screwed over by Magnussen holding them back. So Tsunoda, Ricciardo had a slow pit stop, Zhou had a slow pit stop, and Ocon beat all of them. So when you really break it down, again, Ocon did not have a good race. It sort of just helped him actually that Magnussen was slowing down everyone, because it meant he could keep up with the pace. So with the first 2 races done, it just does not look good for Alpine. And now we've talked about their on-track racing, it leads on perfectly to their off-track drama, which of course consists of a lot of people getting sacked. So I think this issue even can stem all the way back to Otmar being dropped halfway through the season, I believe in Spa in 2023. I don't think they should have done that. I think he was good for them, and Alpine just had way too unrealistic standards. And look at them now, they're in a worse place than where Otmar left them. Now, is it solely down to Otmar leaving? No, of course not. However, they've also now got rid of their technical director, Harmer, and their head of aerodynamics, De Beer. And I know it's not that far into the season. However, this should have all been sorting at testing. They knew they didn't have a good car after testing. Maybe they didn't know it was going to be as bad, but maybe that's because Haas looked better than they did. And everyone else in the midfield is so tight together, and they thought, oh, okay, maybe we'll get away with it. However, they are solid on being the worst qualifying pace car, and in race pace, I'm still yet to see them do anything well. So to go for a reshuffle now, I guess is better than doing it in a few races times. However, they should have done this before the season, as this is just getting in the way of the development. I mean, it can't be good for the development of the car, and it can't be good for the people who work at Alpine, having to get to know new people they're working with, because these relationships don't just grow out of nowhere. They need time, you need to nurture them, and it's going to be an issue going further into 2024. And then on top of this, they also have a bad situation with their drivers. So I've spoken about how much I highly admire Gasly and Ocon. I think they are two great drivers. They're not the best, of course. However, I think they're very solidly in the mid-pack of the drivers. However, they don't like each other. And I feel like Alpine's going for that whole like French feeling around their team. Two French drivers to a French team, which is great. But you can't have drivers not liking each other, especially when you're at the back of the grid. You've got to be working as teammates, like we saw with Magnussen and Hülkenberg, to get those few points that are available when the chances come. And I don't think Gasly or Ocon would do the same for one another like Magnussen and Hülkenberg did, completely ruining the other one's race to make sure the team gets a point. I don't think they have it in them because they don't like each other, which can't do them any more favors. However, after all of what I've spoken about in this video, I think there is an escape plan for Alpine. And that is because in 2024, they've gone through a whole new philosophy on their car. They said the 2023 car got maxed out, so they've moved to a different approach. So there is a chance that this car can improve quite dramatically, because once they bring upgrades, hopefully those upgrades will do a lot to that car, because it's the bare minimum at the minute. And it's the same thing like I said with Mercedes in my constructor videos. I knew Alpine would be bad because they were changing the philosophy of the car, but not this bad, and I don't even think they suspected that this car would be so bad. But if they can just get their upgrades right, get Ocon and Gasly to work together, they could potentially push in 2024 to get a few points if they get their act together. However, in my opinion, I don't think this is going to be enough, because we're not thinking about the outside factors, such as all of the other teams bringing in upgrades to already better cars. So they have work to push against those teams, and I just don't think it's going to happen this year. But what do you guys think in the comments about Alpine? Do you think they can come from the grave back to get a few points and salvage this season, potentially with a 6th, 7th, 8th? Or do you think they're going to rot in the lower positions for most of the season like I do? Anyway, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all later for the next F1 video. Bye bye.